The guy had called her and said he was at exit 37 on the southern state. He pulled up. He passed the house just enough that nobody could really see the vehicle because we had bamboo in between the houses. And said that if my sister calls, tell her I love her. And walked out the door.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh Zeman and welcome to Sinister. So today's interview is special. It's the reason why I decided to spend a decade working on the Gilgo Beach case. It's an interview I did with Kim Overstreet, the sister of Amber Lynn Costello, the alleged last victim of the Long Island serial killer. Now, back in 2014 when we filmed this, there had been no arrests, so we were all just grasping at straws. And I knew before this interview that I wanted to tell this story. But after sitting with Kim, I knew why. Because Kim knew how to cut right to the heart of this case, with an honesty that was as brave as it was tragic. Kim was raw and unfiltered and blunt, and I don't think she'd have it any other way. So nothing's been edited to soften Kim's opinions or about what she was going through at the time, about losing her sister, or survival, or addiction, or sex work, or all the ways in which our institutions fail women like Kim and Amber and the victims in this case. Now, we're sharing this because voices like Kim's are rarely heard when cases like these unfold. Although, I think this is exactly the type of voices we should be listening to. Because understanding what's happening to these women back then is what's going to help us to stop this from happening again in the future. This conversation has never been released in its entirety until now, so viewer discretion is advised. Thanks for watching. So what did they say to you?
The judges just tell me, I've been through some circumstances, and I need to get into some bereavement groups and go through some rehabilitation, and, just try and get my life on the right path and learn from this, this whole experience. And, they really don't want to see me go to jail, but, they think that they're $500 classes, and stuff like that, it's going to help. It's not. It's just more of a burden. It's more stressors, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's just what it is. It's just a way to make money. That's all those classes are.
Why do you think it's more of a burden?
Because then I'm like, I have to be there. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to do this. I have to pay, it's everything comes with a fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not going to solve my problems. Mm-hmm. It's just not. I've been in the streets too long, you know? I've been through too much to take the normal road,
So tell me about kind of the path that you've been on.
I've just always, I ran wild when I was a teenager, I did put myself through school, thank God. But I've just always done what I wanted to, I don't do what other people tell me to do. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that, I don't believe I should have to do what other people say, why I just do what I think is right or do what I want, Mm-hmm. I mean, I've done what it takes to survive. That's what it is. I've just survived.
Mm-hmm. And what about when you were growing up with Amber?
We raised each other. We were best friends. We were just always dependent on each other for emotional. And she was my best friend, she was my worst enemy sometimes. And she was my family. She was my heart, She was my mother. She was my sister. She was my child. She was everything to me. She was my partner in life. Some people think the person you marry is your partner in life, but it's not. For me, it was Amber.
And how was Amber different from you?
Amber never used her instinct. She didn't think things through. At least I do take a second to think things through and have a plan B. She never had a plan B. I was her plan B. It went, and, when situations that looked like they could go wrong, I was there, and we just worked it out. It's just the way it was. She was erratic in a lot of her behavior with drugs and heroin and guys and, You know, she was amazing in that way, though. You know, she was no restrictions and no limits, you know. Free spirit, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you're not that.
I don't know what I am right now. You know, I really don't. I can't say that. I think right now I'm locked down in a part of my life where I can't get out. I'm stuck, so to speak, you know. So it's not like I'm free spiriting along and happy and floating. You know, I'm not doing what I want. I'm just in a bad position right now where I have to do just whatever I can to survive.
And how much of that has to do with what happened to Amber?
Where I'm at right now has just about everything to do with what happened to Amber.
Really?
Yeah. Just about.
Wow.
Aside from the fact that I worked, you know, as an escort before, you know, Amber died, going on, you know, I quit my job as a dog groomer. I walked away from a little bit of friends and family, you know, that I could call. And I've just given up my will, you know. It's just, I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like I've lost my life.
Mm-hmm. Tell me.
I have no reason to do anything, you know. I just do whatever I have to at that moment. You know, I live moment to moment right now. I don't go out and have fun, you know. I don't have any expectations in my life or goals, you know. I'm just kind of existing right now. And I just don't know if I'm going to ever be able to come back from this, you know. It's kind of like the point of no return at this point. She was the last of my Mohicans in my family. When I lost her in such a way, you know, it's just, it ripped me up, and I don't know how to bounce back from it. It's hard. You know, I'm grateful in a lot of ways, though. I mean, at least I know where she is. You know, she was only missing for 4 months. Some of those girls were missing for 5 years, you know. And I do have some sort of closure, you know. I know she's okay, and she's not suffering, and it's just, I don't know, you know. She was my strong point. She was my rock, and, you know, without that, it's hard. When she first disappeared, I, of course, called all the precincts to find out if she had been arrested. I was looking for Jane Doe's, her age, that had OD'd, all up and down, you know, from here to Florida, really, because we had lived from New York to Florida. I thought maybe she went and she, you know, was staying with someone from her old days. You know, we bounced around. That's the way it was. We'd go to state to state and stay a couple weeks here. But I knew that something had happened when she didn't call me after a couple days, because that doesn't happen. And I didn't find anybody, you know, that had OD'd. So I didn't think she was dead. I wasn't sure what happened, you know. I thought if she had been dead, somebody would have found her, even if it was a killing, because usually bodies are found, you know. I didn't think that they would get away with it like that, you know. But, you know, I searched, you know, called everybody that she knew, everybody that I knew, and, you know, finally when it did come out, someone had called me. I wasn't even aware of it. They had said, have you spoken to Amber? And I'm like, no, why? They're like, are you watching the news? I'm like, why? Is she arrested? Is she on the news? They're like, Kim, they just pulled up 4 bodies off Gilgo Beach, and they think it's girls that work from Craigslist. And right then, I knew one of those girls were her. I knew. So I called the Babylon Police Department and got into, they put me in touch with Detective Nolan, Detective Levy, who was the head of the case right now. They had me do a DNA swab because there wasn't enough tissue off the body to draw DNA. And January 21st, which was a Friday, I had actually came back from North Carolina to New York, and that Monday, 2 detectives were there at 7:30 in the morning to let me know that Amber had positively been identified through DNA as the last known victim to disappear from the Craigslist killer, this Gilgo Beach killer.
Fuck.
But at that point, she was married in Florida. She had been married twice. So the person who, you know, was her will executor was in Florida, so I couldn't claim the body right then. So he had to come up. We had to go to court. I had to be appointed for it. Finally, I got her. I was able to lay her to rest at February 6th, and she had turned 27 February 10th. So it was 4 days before her birthday when we got to bury her. Finally. Sorry.
Can you tell me, do you remember the day she disappeared?
Yeah, it was September 2nd. We always walked in the morning. Like, it was, still warm out. We would walk around the blocks, whatever, just talking. And we were talking about going to get our nails done and stuff, because I had to leave that day to go to North Carolina because someone was taking off life support that we knew. And that morning I was with her, and a guy called and just asked the general questions. I wasn't too into it because we deal with 1,000 calls a week. They were just asking, are you full service? How much per hour? How much per night? He had called probably one other time while I was there, and do you party? Do you have access to it? Stuff like that. Just general questions that everybody asked. We didn't think twice about it. We didn't even say anything about it. As I was getting ready to leave for the airport, he had booked her for the night for $1,300, and it was all planned out. She didn't feel anything different than I would have, And I left. I hugged her, told her, call me. I would call her when I got into North Carolina, and just keep in touch and be careful, and stuff like that. Just general everyday stuff. It was no different than any other day. And I guess at like 10:10 that night, the guy had called her and said he was at exit 37 on the Southern State, and she had given him directions how to get to the house off the Southern State. It's what the girl that was with her said. He pulled up. As he was pulling up, he called and said that he was here. He passed the house just enough that nobody could really see the vehicle because we had bamboo in between the houses. She walked out the door and left the girl who was working with her the phone, because it was a working phone for 2 other girls. She felt comfortable, if anything happened, she could use the guy's phone, or if she needed to get in touch with someone. And said that if my sister calls, tell her I love her. And walked out the door. And the next day, probably about 2 o'clock, one of the girls, Anna, called me and was like, have you spoken to Amber? And I was like, no. She's like, she went on this call and we haven't heard from her. I was like, well, that's not unusual. She's probably partying, probably making money. She'll call when she's done, And it turned into a few days. And when I got back from North Carolina, at that point I was logistically worried, but I still, I was like, it's a binge. It's a run, She goes through it. I think what set up the alarms is when her drug dealers started calling me. And it's like, we haven't heard from Amber. What's going on? 'Cause she was a faithful customer. And I knew then that something was wrong, because she couldn't just quit, She couldn't just cold turkey it, go without drugs, And if she would have been in a hospital or something like that, she would have called me, So right then I knew when she didn't have her fix, and she wasn't being in contact with her dealers, at least I knew right then that something was wrong.
How big a user was she?
Oh, she used heroin since she was 15 years old. Yeah. She had her clean moments. She got married twice, she was almost ready to, go into adoption for a baby at one point. Then her marriage split up and the adoption fell through, and that's when she just, kind of lost it and came back, to North Carolina, and she was just doing really bad. People were calling me and they're like, your sister's gonna die, So I was like, I sent her money to catch an airplane up here, and she never came. Of course, she spent the money. And I called one of her dealers and I was like, look, if I send you the money, can you put Amber on the plane for me? And he's like, yeah. And he did. He put her on the plane. She came up here. I guess it was in April, the end of March.
Of what year?
2010. And we got her into St. Charles Rehabilitation Center. And she was in there for 28 days. She came out. She was living in a sober house for a little while. But it was really hard on her, and she, she had a hard time in the sober house. So one of my friends was like, you know what? Why don't you just let her come stay with me? And I didn't know that he had Oxycontins. I really didn't, because if I known, and he was like giving them to her on the side, and it just turned back into a heroin addiction, and it went downhill from there. I mean, it was bad. A couple bundles a day, at least.
No joke. How do you guys get into this?
I actually caught a DWI while I was in college, and I lost my Pell Grant. And I was like, whatever I got to do, I'm going to finish it. It was my last year. So I actually started working at a strip club called Pure Gold in Wilmington, North Carolina. And one of the girls that came in there frequently just as a customer, me and her got to talking, and she owned a stripogram service, so to speak. And she was telling me it's $150 an hour. You keep 100, the agency gets 50. And it's just, a party, and I was like, she's like, just come, go on a couple of the things with us and see how you like it. I was like, I went, and it was a wrap. Some of those girls had made $400 within 45 minutes. So, and they really weren't doing anything different at that time, because we advertised in the yellow pages. You had to have contracts through lawyers for the agency that you weren't providing sex for money, stuff like that. They didn't promote sex in any way. It was strictly entertainment. So, I jumped in it, me, and it was 5 of us. And Amber was just always kind of there, she just was always with me. She would come over to the house and, answer the phone or whatever. And she was just always there. It was a natural selection for her, because by then she was on drugs. It was just easy money for her. She never worked a regular job, she didn't. When she was married, she didn't work. And when she did work, she was doing this. So.
And then tell me I want to know about this process. You told me again, you can't know this shit from a book. You can't get this from a book.
You can't, if in this line of work, if a girl's not on drugs or supporting a man, working for a man or something like that, then they would be working in a strip club. Because you would probably make more money with a lot less bullshit. You know what I'm saying? The women who are posting on Backpage and Craigslist, including myself, it's a last resort. It's a means of survival. There's really no other way to make it at this point. People judge it, but, everybody has something, that the next person's not going to like, and it's not for anybody to say, until you've had to do it to feed your kid or to eat or to have a warm place to sleep at night. It's not for anybody to really say.
But I thought the internet and Backpage there were more girls who weren't, as a last resort. I thought more girls were doing it because it was easier just to put your number up and stuff like that.
Yeah, but why would you have sex for $40, $50, $60? You know what I'm saying? You do have some of the girls that are like seeing guys for $400 or $500, and they're like, but they have like, some type of representation. On Backpage and Craigslist, when you look, they're running $60 specials. Mm-hmm. I mean, who does that? Who sells ass for $60? Unless, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I thought it was this, it was this way that the women could be independent. They wouldn't have to have, a guy.
It's not, though. I swear to God, if you got on Backpage and called right now, did you call any of them?
Yeah.
What were they saying? Of course, they're going to say they're independent, but if you look, a lot of them have the same phone numbers or the same type of, you know what I'm saying? That's what you got to catch on to. The emails and the phone numbers. A lot of them run off that. That's how you can tell.
So they're all linked together?
A lot of them are. I mean, there are some girls who are independent. There's, 50-50, so to say,
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the moment when, you first said, holy shit, the internet?
Yeah, when Amber had come up in March. She was telling me, when she got out of the sober house and stuff, she was like, I'm going to advertise on Craigslist. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, under escorts. And I was like, it's not going to work. Nobody calls that shit. And I thought they called out the yellow book when I worked for them. She posted her ad, and I swear to God, within 35 minutes, that phone was ringing off the hook. I couldn't believe it. I was like, fuck. I mean, she made like $700 in 2 days, just doing 5 or 6 calls. And I was like, I said, all right, Amber, we're going in it together, And And I started posting too. We had a Sisters, ad. We made a lot of money that summer. We made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And now, from there, but now it's not so golden.
No, because it's been tainted. There's still a lot of money. Don't get it wrong. If you straight work it, if I straight worked it, I probably have 15 calls within the last 2 hours,
Right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the way here, the other night, my phone was blowing up.
Do it one more time.
I said, my phone constantly blows up when I post. If you put a phone number on Backpage, they take your ad down after about 3 hours. So you have to repost every 3 hours because you're not supposed to put a phone number, only an email. So you have to type out 631 as in, word process. But after they filter it, which takes about 3 hours, it comes off. It's been flagged for removal. So.
And then you can put the same number back up?
Yeah, absolutely. You just can't put 2 ads up under the same email at the same time. You understand what I'm saying?
But if you could do something, what would you do? Is there anything to help? Is there anything to make it better?
I would definitely like to see people have to register track phones that you go into the store and buy and just put your 10-minute card on it. Mm-hmm. Because they don't show up on the phone bill as a phone number. They just show up as all zeros. It's not a registered number. That's what happened with my sister.
Explain that a little bit more.
Whatever phone he called off of, he didn't text or send photos. So when he called from the track phone, the number that showed up was all zeros. There wasn't a phone number for it. So there's no way to track it down.
Because it was a burner phone.
Right.
Which means?
They can just use it and throw it away and no one knows who it was.
There's no contract.
There's no contract. There's no name. You go into CVS, you pay $20. The only thing that they can tell is where the phone was purchased from. Because that's when you get the card, you have to put it on the phone or whatever. But I think those should be outlawed and banned because a lot of things happen off those burner phones. Not just in this aspect, but kidnappings, whatever. It's just a bad way. Right.
Take me through what you do to protect yourself.
I give my partner the phone number. When the car pulls up or if I'm running out to the car or wherever I'm going, he'll look at the car and try and get the tag number, and I try not to go too far, and I try to text him where I'm going, so that if anything happens, it's the last known spot. If he doesn't hear from me within 30 minutes, then he calls a couple times. If he doesn't hear with me within an hour, then he sends people out to look for me at the last address I was out, which it hasn't really come to that. So, it's been pretty, I'm going to be honest, I've had one bad experience in my whole life doing this, and that's when somebody's wife came home. And, other than that, I really have not had a bad experience doing this. I mean, you get your people who the calls don't go through because you're not their cup of tea, but that's fine. It's whatever, But as far as feeling physically threatened, I've never experienced that on these things. I don't put up with it. If I feel that, I turn around and walk away and just leave the money. I don't need it that bad.
So, is it that people needed the money badly enough that they made mistakes?
Absolutely. They go against their instinct.
What was Amber's state of mind around the time she disappeared?
Whatever it takes to get high. To keep from being sick. Her state of mind was just on how she's going to get her dope that day. Where she's going to cop it from and what is it going to take to get it. That was it. That was it. That was it for, me too in a lot of aspects, Just, you don't do it for the money anymore. You just do it to stay high. I don't do it for the money anymore. I just do it to stay high. That's it. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I'm not doing it as a career. I'm just doing it as a means of survival. That's it.
And did you go to the police when she disappeared?
No, not in the beginning. I don't go to the police. I go to the streets, The police aren't going to do shit. What are they going to do? They're not going to do shit.
I mean, you think you'd really know that?
Absolutely. They didn't do shit for the girls that did disappear, and their families went to the police. What was the difference? Except having the police interfere in my life, you know what I'm saying? I mean, she wasn't found any faster. or none of those girls were, you know, from going to the police, you know. I told people, I said, well, I'll know when I have to go to the police. I'll go when I have to, you know. And that's what happened. Where I'm from, you just don't go to the police. You don't. I don't care what the situation is.
And do you think the police treated the girls any differently, the disappearances any differently?
In the beginning, absolutely. You know, absolutely. I think the general police around here, Suffolk County police, forget about it. It's ridiculous. It was a joke. They're a joke, you know. But as far as when, you know, the state police got involved in it, and, you know, detectives, and, you know, it became a little bit more serious. But even now, the Suffolk County police don't take it serious, you know. A lot of them don't even know that he's still out there running. You know, I ran across a cop the other day that thought he was dead. He had killed himself, you know. And I said to myself, Jesus Christ, if you pulled this guy over, you would let him go, you know, because you wouldn't even be looking for anything that has to do with that, you know. I couldn't believe it. And he felt really like shit when I pointed that out to him, you know, because he knew who I was. He had seen me on TV. Oh, he got me on a warrant. He had his arrest. I'm like, why aren't you chasing fucking child fuckers and the people who killed my sister and all those women? You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, well, that guy's dead, isn't he? Talking about Bissett, who had claimed, if you know anything about this, Bissett was, you know, blah, blah, blah. And
but my audience doesn't know about that, so you have to explain that.
Bissett is a guy who owned, what is that called? Greeneries, like greenhouses and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's a big business owner out here in Suffolk County. Apparently, he had committed suicide, and he was known for calling Craigslist girls, and everybody jumped to the conclusion that he had killed himself because of this, but it wasn't, and I felt really bad for that family. You know, people just take it and run with it. Anytime they hear Craigslist and something, you know, they just automatically connect it, and, you know, the guy committed suicide because he was getting over divorce, and, you know, he was losing everything, and it was just a bad situation for him. So the cops, you know, I guess apparently just assumed it was him as well, and it's an open case with paperwork all over the walls of the detectives units, and this cop didn't even know that he's still out there. You know, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
I mean, you have an active serial killer who's killed 10 people probably.
Still killing. You know, still killing. And he doesn't even know that he's not dead. Like, how does that work? No wonder. You know, no wonder some of them girls were missing for 5 years. That's how serious they take it. There are some detectives, though. Detective Levy, Detective Nolan, a couple others that, you know, they get in touch with me every couple months. You know, they're always like, anytime I get arrested, they're like down at the precinct, you know what I'm saying, trying to talk to me and show me photos. And I mean, some of them, it's become like that case that they get involved in, you know what I'm saying, that they can't let go of. So, God bless them, you know, because of them, it's probably the only reason it's as much brought to light as it is, you know.
Mm-hmm. Which detectives do you think those are?
Detective Levy, Detective Nolan.
Tell me about Levy.
There's not much to say. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. He just comes to me with phone numbers and phone records and text messages to decipher the talk, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't know if you're talking to a customer or a drug dealer or a boyfriend, a sister. And what, like, some of the stuff is that when you do talk to customers, and just show me mugshots and photos and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, I think he's putting his heart into it as much as he can with what he's got. I think he wants to catch him. Like, he wants to catch him. I think it'll be a career maker for him. As well as something that eats at you. You know how you can't remember something and it's fucking, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what this is for him. Like, he wants to get that, he wants to remember, you know, he wants to know who the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. So do I, you know, and he knows that.
Do you think they're going to solve it?
I think eventually it'll be brought to light, whether it'll be solved or it'll be a mistake on his part or him coming forward, you know. Most serial killers are brought to light. It's just years, you know. It takes them actually getting to the point where they want to be caught, you know. And that's something I've accepted, and it'll happen, you know. It'll happen. Joel Rifkin, he just got sloppy with it. He had an expired tag with a body in the back at 3 a.m. Like, who does that? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't do that unless you were just careless with it. You know? You just get to the point like me and Amber are, you know? You have no fear. You know? You have no fear. That's what happens with a lot of them. They you do it every day or every whatever. It's a sickness. It's a sickness. I understand it. I swear to God, believe it or not, I understand it. You know, I know what it's like to have a sickness that eats at you that you can't cure. It's a progression that just worsens every day and it just overtakes just any kind of sense you would have. And, oh my God, it's just horrible. You know, I understand. I understand. Believe it or not, I understand. It's bad. It's bad.
But this is not the first time this has happened in Long Island.
And it probably won't be the last. It's just the way it is. You know, me and my sister never talked about serial killers, but we should have because it's one of the most common amongst this type of work, you know. It's probably more common than just one-on-one freakouts and just random killings, you know. It's just not brought to light because they're prostitutes. It's just the way it is, you know. Unless you're on 48 Hours and there's a special about it or something, you know, you just don't even hear about these girls getting killed. Because they're just nobodies, you know. They're just drugged out hookers that a lot of families don't even want to hear about that side of life because they never have to live it, you know.
Was that a problem in this case that people just didn't want to know?
I think the biggest problem is they didn't know and they jumped to conclusions and judgments and stuff and they judged it rather than empathize with it. So instead of looking, they just brushed it off as a hooker who has a drug problem and, you know, it's just they use it from the aspect of everything that's bad. You know what I'm saying? They view it from the point of everything that's bad. Not that this is my sister or somebody's daughter or somebody's aunt, somebody, you know, it's just another hooker with a drug problem. And that's what you get in the media. You know, you don't get that up close and personal. You know, it wasn't a hooker. It was my sister that happened to do prostitution. You know what I'm saying? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I thought Coker's book was good.
I like everything he does. I really appreciate him. He's been there from the beginning. He's been a good guy. He's been on the front lines to tell Amber's, Megan's, Melissa, and Maureen's story about how it came to be in this. You know, that they weren't just woke up. They just weren't hookers. They were girls who got put in really bad positions. You know, that just had no other choice. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really thought he did a good job.
He did do a good job. He really did.
He did. You were telling me yesterday, what'd you say? Like they hadn't. What do the cops have to catch this guy?
Well, they have the bodies and the known that they were on Craigslist. I don't think that they really have a lot. You know, they don't have DNA. They don't have a witness. They don't have a crime scene. They don't have, you know, a weapon. You know, they have a bag of bones in one hand and some hope in the other. And that's pretty much what they got. You know, they have, there's no one that's came forward. They haven't found any more bodies around this area. It's so hard. You know, it's hard. I understand their aspect of it too. It's hard. You can only work with what you get. I've been trying to solve it. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard. It's hard.
What have you done to try and solve this case?
I've took guys' information down, you know, that like I just know it just rubbed me the wrong way. And just in the beginning I was taking everybody's information down, turning, you know, putting it in the computers, Googling them, just doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? I was practically damn stalking some of them, you know.
I mean, you were.
Yeah.
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 Taking all their names and numbers down.
Tag numbers, making models of cars. If I could get anything off their driver's license, you know what I'm saying? Like I would. I did whatever I could, you know. And then I would have a private eye that I was working with, you know, research it and see if anything came about it, you know, and if there was anything that could be led into the police, you know.
Did you hire the private eye?
I know he came to me and we were just working hand in hand.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who was he?
I'm not going to give his name, but he was just someone that took an interest in the case. Mm-hmm. He worked on some unsolved murders and stuff like that before, and I don't know. He just interviewed like everybody at Oak Beach, you know, it became, you know, something, a hobby.
It wasn't that old. Was that older guy? From
No,
Jersey?
no, no, no,
Right,
no,
right,
no.
okay.
This,
So your sister disappears. How quickly do you continue to keep working after you found out
immediately.
what happened to her?
Immediately.
You didn't stop.
No. Because then I was forced into it even more. You know, I quit my job and did it all day and all night, hoping I would come across the guy who did it. You know, I was hoping he'd still be in the area at that point. And, you know, at this point I had been on TV, so he knew who I was. It becomes a sickness, you know, and you just got to lead him into it.
And did you think you were going to catch him?
No. I thought that maybe, I don't know. I just thought that maybe, I don't know what answers, you know. I don't know what I was hoping. I don't even know what would happen if I really ran into him, you know. But, I just want to know who killed my sister. I just want to see for myself with my own 2 eyes, without the police, without all that crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be face to face and just know how it was for Amber. You know, I just want to know what she went through. How bad was it for her? You know, she doesn't deserve to suffer by herself. You know, and I don't know. You know, I just want to know.
Now you set up a clearinghouse for girls. I mean, you were talking to other girls. I mean, what's the problem? Girls, I don't. The one thing I don't understand is you expect that this guy has seen other girls. He hasn't killed them, but he's seen these other
Absolutely.
girls.
You know, absolutely. I think that someone has ran across him and either you're too strong, you know, you're not weak, or you have that instinct that you go off of and you're just, you know, you get away, you know. Absolutely.
He's met some other girl.
He's killed again. I would bet my money on it. Yeah. It's a sickness. And if you look over it, even just using the 4 girls, okay? One, he killed Megan, and then about a year and a half later to 2 years, he killed Melissa. And then within a year, it was Maureen. And then, you know, within 6 months, it was my sister, you know? So, no way, you know? He's got that, you know, he's got that taste for it now.
So, I don't understand. The cops say that they're not going to bust the girls if the girls go to the cops with as much information as possible.
Absolutely not. You know, the detectives that are working this homicide, they're not interested in prostitutes. They're not interested in busting these girls for prostitutes. You know, they're not going to give their names to people who are, you know, setting up tack for prostitution. You know, they just want to solve this, you know, and, you know, even if you call and give a tip and don't leave your name, you know what I'm saying? Like, just whatever, you know. No, they're not looking to bust the prostitutes or the Johns.
Right.
You know, they're just looking to solve a serial killer.
So that's the message you think that's probably the most important.
Absolutely. You know, don't get it twisted, you know. Even if you're in with drugs or whatever, you know, they're not looking for you. They're not looking to make an arrest on drugs. They're looking to solve a homicide, you know. And they're not going to ask you information about it. They just want to know what you know or what you think, you know, and that's it.
And what do you think girls should be looking out for?
I just think that it can happen to you. You know, me and Amber never thought about it. We never talked about it. We weren't prepared for it, you know? And I think that you need to have a realistic view that every call you go on or every time you get in a car, I think, me personally, I'm like, okay, this might be the one. I go through my phone. This could be him because of certain texts that they, you know, and you have to treat it like that now. You have to treat it like it's not out there, you're just going to make money. Like, this could be the serial killer. You have to be prepared just in case.
I mean, I'm surprised. We're in Long Island. We're how far away from where the girls were found?
My sister was in Babylon, which is maybe 15, 20 minutes. Ronkonkoma was Megan, which is 15 minutes. Then you have Maureen, who was at Penn Station train station, which is, you know, a good hour by train. And then you have Melissa, who was in the Bronx.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all within an hour radius, 45-minute radius.
It's not that far.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So do you think he's going to strike again?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think he has struck again?
I think he has. It's been 3 years. He killed 4 girls within 5 years. To be sure, he's killed. You know what I'm saying? Within 3.
Do you think you've met him?
I think there's... That's a trick question. I think I've ran across them, maybe. I do. Because me and Amber were working together side by side at that time. You know, he was praying then. And yeah, I think I ran across him, and I think that I wasn't the one, you know? I just wasn't the one.
Why don't you think you were the one?
Because I don't stay there and eat a lot of shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm uncomfortable, I'm leaving. If you're uncomfortable, I'm leaving, you know? If I sense something, anything, like, I'm leaving. That's it. I'm not scared to leave. I will leave, you know? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the girls take a hesitant step because they're scared to leave, you know?
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't think he kills the first time he meets them. He meets them, he lets them go, and then he restocks them. Yes? No?
I don't know. That's so hard to say. Because I don't know.
Peter told me he was a stalker.
He could stalk them, but I don't think he actually meets them. My sister had been called a couple times to walk up to a couple of different places, and the guy would meet her. She'd be up there. She'd be waiting. 30 minutes later, finally the guy would call, and he would be like, you're wearing blue shorts and, a striped shirt or whatever. But he would never, come forth or give his location, they never met. And that happened a couple times with my sister, and it was the same guy.
It was the same guy?
It was the same guy, because he would use different numbers, but she caught on to his voice.
Really?
And
how many times do you think this happened?
With her?
Yeah.
It was 3 times.
How previously before?
I can't tell you that. Right. Because I don't know. I just know that she said she was scared. It's just one of the few times that she was really scared, it scared her.
Why don't more people know about this?
Because it's taboo, People, it's not the good part of life, It's not the offense and the children, and it's not, It's the crime of Long Island, and they try to hide it. It's just the way it is, It's the dirt, the scandal. It brings to light a lot of people who do see girls. It's just a lot, It's just, you don't want to be involved in it, so they don't want to put themselves into it, so they don't think about it. It's not them, it's not anybody they know. Why would they worry about it? Mm-hmm. They've got enough on their plate. And do you think,
are you first of all, what are the other families going to think about your participation in this?
I really, what are they going to think? What can they think? It's just the way it is. It's a part of my life. It's a part of my sister's life. It's how she disappeared. Of course, they can't think anything. If anything, what are they going to think? At least someone's... I don't know what to say. I just don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't think anything. I would think, okay, well, at least she's putting it out there, Any information that you can put out there to bring it to light a little bit more is helpful, Mm-hmm. Anything that helps. Anything that helps.
That's what that's what I think. But grief is fucked up,
Well, you know what? It's just, down deep inside they know what it is. You don't want to think that your daughter's a drug addict, prostitute. You want to try and glamorize it. And that's fine, to each his own. You know what I'm saying? If that's how they get by in life thinking that, then great. Don't let me bust their bubble. You know what I'm saying? But deep down in their heart, they know what the truth is. You know what I'm saying? They just can't accept it, and that's neither here nor there for me.
Mm-hmm. And you think that Shannon Gilbert, by the way, coincidence?
Absolutely. What a freak fucking accident. That is some shit that could happen to me. She's all coked up. She's scared out of her mind. I think she went on the call, and after the guy, he's sitting there doing blow. He can't get hard. It's time to go. He gets pissed because he wants to, well, I'm not here to babysit your dick. You know what I'm saying? It's my time to go. I think she went to go leave, and he might have grabbed her. And some chicks get paranoid on that shit. I've seen people get on coke and crack and shit and fucking freak the fuck out, and I think that's what happened. And she couldn't swim, and she ran in the marsh, fell and hit her head and drowned. It could totally happen.
Right, you can see that
easily. And I don't think it was the killer, because her clothes and her purse and stuff like that was found, And that's not like that with the other girls. No, it's too sloppy.
But it's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. And she was found on the day of the, we go up there and let the balloons off and stuff like that, December 11th. As we were up there letting the balloons go for remembrance, the police were down there pulling her body out. Like, I remember going down there and putting flowers down there after I left my sister's memorial. Yeah, it was crazy. That's crazy. 1 year to the same day, they find Shannon. How does that happen? That's something working, Something. Like, I don't know what I believe in, but I definitely believe that's something working. She wasn't affiliated with the murder at all. It's just a freak accident. And then 1 year when we're down there, like, remembering all these girls and stuff, she's found. Like, that's crazy. It gives me goosebumps. It is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and just the fact that she freaked out and the whole thing, and this is so close, and then the dog finds the bodies 4 miles away. That's not easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No. That was just a chance of luck. It was just one of those things you can't explain. One step led into a domino effect, thank God. And, you just have to leave it to a higher power and just think that something's greater than us out there that let this happen, Right. And it's like I told her, I will always forever, keep Shannon in the same circle, because if it wasn't for Shannon, my sister would not be found. To me, she's just as much important as the dog that found her, as the killer. She's just as important as the killer, in this story. And she was found. They didn't just give up on her after one of those bodies weren't her. They relentlessly searched and they found her.
I know this doesn't provide much, but you must have thought about who this guy is, what this guy is.
All the time. I think, was he handsome? God, I hope he was handsome, and she didn't have to, go through this crazy experience with someone that scared the shit out of her by looks, is he a father? Is he just, God, I wonder all the time, I wonder all the time. Was it a grandpa? Was it a son? What was it? You just try to picture it, and you can't, you can't, because so many varieties of guys call. It's just crazy. But of course, I think he's a business. He's a worker, of some sort. I think he may have family. I think he may be connected to family. I think he might have children, or he's married.
Why?
I don't know. It's because of all the guys that I ran across. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just don't think, he's obviously not a psychopath. He's a sociopath. He blends in with the community. A psychopath, they would have caught him. He's a sociopath. So I think he blends in. I think he has family and he works and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this guy scans Backpage?
Absolutely. Every day. Every day.
Looking.
Yeah. Yep. Even if he gets his thrills off that, you know what I'm saying? That's as much as he can do right now because of all the media. Yeah, absolutely.
And if we were to go find him, that's one of the places we should look. Where should we go find him? Where should we look?
That's a good question.
Where should we look?
On Backpage, in the advertisements, men for women, no strings attached, casual hookups. Same way he finds us.
Think he's there too?
I think so.
Why?
Just to see what the bait drills in, you know what I'm saying? I just think that, yeah.
And what would you say in that casual hookup?
For him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
But you think it's an internet trolling advertising
Absolutely. It's
thing?
Yeah. He's hooked on the internet. Personals. I'll say personals. And yeah, I think so. I can't explain it. You just know these things when you're living it every day. It's just one of those things you don't understand until you've walked in it.
So what do you want?
What do I want? I just want to know who killed my sister. You know, I just want to know what she went through and how bad it was for her. And what she said. What was the last thing she said? You know, I want to know what her last words were.
And is that going to help you?
Yeah, I think it will. Absolutely. It'll help me because it's not the burden of just her carrying it anymore, you know. At least someone else knows what she went through at the end besides him, besides the person who killed her, you know, someone who loved her.
And you think that's going to help you?
I don't think anything's going to help me. No. No. It's not going to help me. But I think she deserves it, you know.
And what is going to help you?
I don't think anything's going to help me. I've lost anything that's ever meant anything to me, you know. I lost my family, my whole family. My mom, my dad, my sister. Like, I'm by myself, and I'm just to the point where this is it, you know. It's like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to get better, you know. I'm going to meet someone and settle down and whatever, you know. But for right now, it's just getting by without feeling, you know, without any emotional attachment.
Well, we're going to keep pushing on this story. And
Okay.
I told you what we're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the first program you've been on.
No. No, it's not.
You know, some of these programs, it seems to me, it's just...
You know, you just got the people who are on the media. They're not really investigative reporters. They're just there for the hour to get the little shit in. You know what I'm saying? After that, they don't think twice about it, you know? It's no different than the person walking up on the street saying, hey, you know, aren't you the sister of the prostitute who got killed that was a drug addict? You know what I'm saying? Like, not, oh my God, you know, I'm so sorry about your sister, and you know, I hope they catch this guy. You know, it's just, your sister was a drug addict and a prostitute. You know, just save it. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it, because, you know, if you're not going to spend more than 5 minutes ridiculing it, then don't even spend any time on it at all, because it's not going to do anything, you know?
I mean...
But make the person look bad.
And when you see all this serial killer stuff, you know, like all the media, everything...
It's a little heartbreaking, because it's not Amber, Megan, Melissa, and Maureen. It's 4 prostitutes that work for Craigslist, you know what I'm saying, that were killed. It's not individualized. It's not personalized. It's just, you know, 4 prostitutes in Long Island that were killed in Long... You know, that's it. It's not names. It's not, you know...
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. So what you just heard was my interview with Kim Overstreet, which we did over a decade ago. And what still stands out to me listening to Kim is just how smart she is, how prescient she is, even through the haze of addiction, which I think only goes to prove her point, that these are real people. These are mothers, daughters, sisters, and they deserve our sympathy, but most of all, our justice. I'm Josh Zeman. Thanks for watching.